determination to our party, our movement and our society. Thank you for everything you do. Brighton is a city that has given place and space and hope and opportunity to so many. And this morning I was playing table tennis with a group of people. Very badly, I have to say. They taught me a lot. They were young people from Brighton. They were refugees from other parts of the world. They were people who had been up against it. They came together in a spirit of sanctuary, hope and unity to say, if you're a refugee here in Brighton, you're welcome, work with us, and we will help you develop your life. I want to say thank you to the people of Brighton for their whole approach to life and support for other people. I have known Martha, who's just spoken, for, well, 2/3 of my life, and she is somebody to me that epitomises what spirit, principle and determination is about. She came to this country in great difficulty. She lived in great poverty. She had many personal problems and tragedies. But you know, she talks about when we first met in the 1970s. She didn't ask me about anything for herself personally, ever. She was always asking about her neighbours, her community, the racism they faced, the discrimination that they faced. And when the National Front came knocking, when the National Front came organising in the multicultural area I was proud to represent, it was Martha, it was Bernie Grant, it was Diane, it was so many others that came together to say, these fascists and these racists have no place whatsoever. Look at your crowd here, look around you here. What are we? We're young, we're old, we're black, we're white. We're from different countries, we're from this country. And you know what? We're stronger for it. We're stronger for that unity and being together. That's what our rally is about. The election campaign showed something very special about this country. We were told, as John said, well, I don't know why he's got a problem about people with grey beards. I really don't. I'm going to have a word with him later on about that. It's outrageous. It's only because he hasn't got one. I tried. You know, you can't persuade everybody to do everything. I keep trying. He won't grow a beard. So he condemns those of us that have got one. It's outrageous, it's appalling, and I'll deal with it. But he was quite right in what he said. You remember all those experts? My goodness, there were a lot of them as well. All those experts in April that gathered around every late night TV discussion table, every morning radio show to write us off, to write us all off, to write off hope, to write off inspiration, to write off collective aspiration, and said, this election is the end of Labour, the end of socialism, the end of the whole century-long tradition. And they kept on doing that. And they kept on convincing each other that they convinced each other to be right. Because they were only ever talking to each other. And so we went out there with a manifesto that said something very, very different. We also went out there with 2 million more people registered to vote, because so many of you took the trouble to get online, get yourself registered, and get all your mates registered as well. Because we were not going to let them take away the hopes of a whole generation by their meanness, nastiness, and austerity-led politics. And we took that campaign out around the country. I did 100 events myself all around the country, and I tell you what, in the next election we're going to do even more. And we showed something. We showed something that we have the strength outside Parliament to change things. We showed what the Tories were really about. A party of the rich, for the rich, by the rich, delivering for the rich. That is what they're about. And their manifesto said it all. They actually proposed to threaten pensioners and to take away social care from those who desperately need it. We put that message out there. So we faced up to them, and we faced them down, and we put on 3 million more votes than we achieved in 2015. Those came from people who wanted to live in a better, a different world, and thought that some things we can't afford. People always tell me there's lots of things you can't afford. Well, I know that, absolutely, I do know that. But the one fundamental thing we, all of us, every single one of us here, can't afford is the inequality of our society and the absurd level of riches amongst the minority at the expense of the majority. And that Tory campaign, funded by the billionaires, our campaign was supported by trade unions and by £4 million donated by ordinary people with an average donation of just over £20. Doesn't that say something about where our support came from in this election? They didn't win, they didn't get the majority they wanted, and then they turned up in Parliament and decided that they couldn't pay the nurses, couldn't pay the firefighters, couldn't pay the police officers, couldn't pay the council workers, but there was £1 billion found for the DUP. Now, no, don't be unkind, please. Ours is a kinder form of politics. There are 10 DUP MPs. Each one of them is utterly brilliant in every way. And they're so brilliant, each one is worth £100 million. Imagine what you could have done with that money. How many student fees you could have paid. How much social care you could have paid, how many schools you could have properly funded, how many hospitals you could have funded properly, how much more you could have done with it. But no, that was the priority. The priority of the Tories was staying in office at all costs. Well, we're challenging them day in, day out. And when we put 2 motions to Parliament, one on student fees and the other on NHS pay, they didn't even dare vote against them. They let them go through unopposed because they knew they were going to lose. 3 months after a general election, what happened to Strong and Stable? What happened to Principled and Determined? My goodness, they told us all these cuts were good for us. Well, if they really believe that, maybe they should have voted on it. However, we go back there after conference, we challenge them again, we challenge them next on the plight of waspy women all around this country who have been denied the pension they deserve. Yet another Tory injustice. And we challenge them on the way they're handling the negotiations with the European Union. Because what they're doing, listen, read Boris Johnson's article, read what they're all saying, they want to destroy the workers' rights, environment rights, consumer rights. They want to turn this country into an offshore tax haven on the shores of Europe. They have given no guarantees, which we will give immediately to all EU nationals living here because of the work they do, the contribution they make to our society. And we're not going down that road of tax havens on the shores of Europe. We're going down the road of protecting jobs, protecting rights, enhancing rights, and working with people across national borders and frontiers to bring about that better world and that more prosperous world. That's the message we're going to be so clearly putting now and all through this campaign and in the future, because that really is the only future that's available for all of us. What's Theresa May done? Cozied up to Donald Trump, cozied up to transatlantic trade and investment partnership type of deals which would damage our rights, damage our environment, and lead to a disgusting race to the bottom in consumer rights, working conditions and environmental protections on both sides of the Atlantic. That is where international free market, free-for-alls lead you to. We are not going down that road. And whilst we're on the subject of Donald Trump, I'm sorry about this. I don't want to ruin your evening. I don't want to ruin your evening. I'll just quite simply say this. If you just cozy up to do a sort of cozy trade deal with Donald Trump, it's not going to work. It's going to damage all of us. And we have to say, we want to live on one planet. There is, as far as I know, only one planet that has human life on it. Donald Trump may know different. He's an incredibly well-informed man, but so far the evidence is pretty thin on that subject. And so, a Labour government would pick up the phone to Donald Trump and say, the Paris Climate Change Agreement came about not just because of those intensive 3 weeks negotiations that went on in Paris, but because of 50 years of environmental campaigning by people all over the world that were concerned about their rivers, their forests, their air quality, their seas, and wanted to leave a world in a better order for the future rather than a worse one. They wanted to live in a sustainable world. Off the coast of Brighton, you see that wind farm. Surely that is a message of what we can do. We can do without damaging our environment or our planet. And so we work together on putting policies forward for the future. Policies forward for the next election, policies forward in our party. In the election campaign, we made it clear we wanted an education system properly funded that's there for all. We wanted to end the scandal of $9,000 a year student fees in university, college fees and adult fees, and the loss of educational maintenance allowance, which has been so damaging to so many working class kids who haven't got into college or university because they couldn't afford to stay. So we will invest that money. We have a National Health Service that is the greatest achievement of our lifetime. Health care free at the point of use as a human right for all. It's under threat. It's under threat from privatisation, from underfunding, under threat from the mental health crisis, under threat from the social care crisis. There is no other way other than properly funding it. Selling off bits of land, trying to reorganise it endlessly in order to save bits of money here and there is not the answer, any more than privatising aspects of it or selling off particular services, in some cases to companies that run them and then have the temerity to place their profits in some tax haven somewhere else. Think it through. Our money into our NHS ends up somehow or other in a tax haven. It's not right and not happening. And so we'll fight on that, and we'll fight to end the scandal of the mental health crisis in this country by challenging the stigma, but also properly funding the support that all those people suffering, and a quarter of us do or will in our lifetime. We can and we will do it. There's so much that we have to do. So much we have to do. I just want to say a couple more things. Brighton is a wonderful place, and but you also notice in Brighton, as in Bournemouth, as in Hastings, as on the streets of London, Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle, Glasgow, Edinburgh, you name it, what do you see every night? The sadness of homeless people looking for somewhere to live, looking for somewhere to survive. They are not the cause of the housing problem. They're a symptom of a housing problem that this government has failed to address. And so it is about building more council housing with lifetime tenancies, and not saying some or other council housing is out of date and out of time. All those families that were rehoused after the destruction of the Second World War in council houses with lifetime secure tenancies benefited from it. All those that were rehoused in the 60s and 70s of the building that went on then benefited from it. It's the Thatcherite grab of making money the idol we should all follow, rather than the social needs of the community come first, that is the root cause of the problem we face. I'm determined, with your help, we'll develop not just the overall policy, but the detailed policies of what we want to achieve: decency for all in housing, and, if I may say so, regulation, proper regulation of the private rented sector. But we also have to have an economy that grows and expands, and that there are good quality jobs for the future. That's why we are committed to a national investment bank, while we're committed to regional investment agencies, while we're committed to investing in high-tech, sustainable industries in the future. Public investment should not be seen as a dirty word. Public investment should be seen as the basis of prosperity for all of us, rather than the growing inequality brought about by the lack of it. And so I want to make those centrepiece in our policies. And I'm not afraid to say, and I'm sure nobody on this platform would disagree with me, that public ownership of our railway system would be a great benefit to Brighton. But I have to say, I really do admire Southern Railways. I really do admire Southern. No, this is a very serious point. It's a very serious point. Please, no booing. It's very unfair. Totally wrong. You shouldn't do it. This weekend, there's a lot of people in Brighton for the Labour Party conference. Lots of people come from all over the world to come to our conference. Thousands and thousands of people. I think it really shows that they treat everybody equally badly. They cancel just as many trains this weekend as they do every other weekend. So we're all suffering exactly the same. Listen, let's invest in our railways. We put the public money into the track. Let's get the benefits of the rolling stock as well, and have public ownership of the train operating companies. And we are determined also to bring the water industry and Royal Mail into public ownership, because they are monopolies that should be held by us. And it is about investment, and I'm very keen to do that. But you know what? Socialism, social justice is about lots of other things. I want a government that doesn't cow down before the rich and powerful around the world, that does stand up, and when abuses of human rights take place, wherever they take place, we speak out on it. Be it Saudi Arabia or anywhere else, we speak out on it. Because the refugee crisis is caused by injustice, caused by poverty, but also caused by abuses of human rights. Let's rebrand ourselves as a party that's out there on human rights, justice, peace and democracy all around the world. The victims of war have to be supported. The wars of the future must be prevented. That surely has to be the right way forward. But it's also about rights at work and rights everywhere else that we'll be campaigning on. But it's also about the creativity that's there in all of us. And Brighton is such a place of such creativity. When children grow up, they learn to crawl, they learn to walk, they learn to speak, they learn music, they learn song, they think of poetry, they start painting, they start acting, and their imagination, their creativity runs all over all wild all over the place, and it's wonderful to see. I want all of our children to have those chances. So I want all of our children to be able to get music lessons and art in schools and support the theatre and creativity. Because the human being is naturally creative. And so it will be a Labour government that will invest in the arts. It will be a Labour government that won't bow down before the Murdoch Empire whenever it raises its hand. We want access to that creativity that's there in all of us. That's what we're really about. Tonight, we're at a rally just before the Labour Party conference is held. I don't think there's ever been an event like this to start conference off before. I first went to a Labour Party conference many, many years ago, and what a fantastic atmosphere it is. Because we're a movement, we're a party, we're a society determined to do things differently. Determined to change things, determined to conquer inequality and injustice in our society and be that force for change in the world. And that is what's different. We showed during the election campaign people coming together in a creative ambition for the collective good, a creative ambition to ensure that every child is able to develop to the fullest of their potential. Every person that needs care and support is given that care and support when they need it. A society that genuinely cares for all, rather than the arid, nasty individualism that we inherited from the Thatcher era. So, our party, us, are a movement for social change. You don't achieve that change just by what you do in those frenetic few days or weeks before an election. You achieve it by the debate and the conversation that we have. Our forefathers and mothers before us gave us the vote, gave us the National Health Service, gave women the vote, gave us human rights, gave us equality, gave us the principles of anti-discrimination legislation. We don't turn our backs on them or forget them, but we use the digital age and the age of the public meeting and the age of coming together in this wonderful 21st century to bring about the social justice we want, to bring about the society we want, to bring about the unity we want, and together, we can and will